What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We're coming to you live from Mugs in Chambéry, France. This is the final day of our in-person mastermind, and I am sitting with one of my all-time favorite clients, multi-100K Club award winner, Lisa Raiche, also known as the Construction CPA. And Lisa, how you doing today?
I'm good, and thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So you have a really cool story, and I'd like you to share it and then bring us up to something you were sharing with my wife just a minute ago in terms of maybe being careful what you wish for, but also maybe some of the frustrations that come along with feeling like you're maybe stuck in quicksand and in a business you don't really love anymore.
Yeah, so I did the typical route. I worked for another local CPA firm out of college. There were 10 to 15 of us. I did that. I couldn't understand why we weren't helping anyone. And I did that for about 8 or 9 years and just made the decision I was going to just leave completely. Went into corporate America, did that for a while, got sick and tired of the politics in corporate America, worked for large publicly traded companies. I worked in tech. And about the time I started my practice, I had seen that in the industry there was a bit of a shift into this thing they call advisory. And I thought, oh, that's the work I really wanted to be doing years ago in the other practice, because we were just churning and burning tax returns out. And so I got kind of excited about having my own practice, but got out of the gate and realized pretty quickly I had no ability to find clients or to find clients consistently and get new revenue in consistently. And I did that for a couple of years up until COVID. And that got very scary, because then I started to actually see colleagues of mine who were in those tough industries, in restaurants, as CPAs working in entertainment and so on, and their businesses evaporated overnight. And I got really, really scared. But it took me a number of months into COVID. I probably got about 4 or 5 months into COVID before I realized, if this doesn't go away, and if my clients go away, what do I do? I was making just enough money to pay my mortgage, pay my car, basic life expenses. I was not making anywhere as close to what I was making in corporate. Again, I was enough to cover bills. And so I finally had to get serious. Found you, again, came back around after the fact, which was, again, I wasn't ready the first time you and I spoke. I made the decision before I got on the call that I was not buying anything. I'm like, you're buying nothing from this guy. You are not going to do what he's going to tell you to do. I just knew I wasn't ready. A couple months later, I actually was finally ready. Like, to the point where I spent about 20 minutes digging through my email looking for the last email interaction you and I had together to get on your calendar. But I started doing the program, started to follow the steps of the program in terms of the sales, the marketing, that aspects of things. Did well right out of the gate. I had 70% increase in revenues year over year, 2 years in a row. The first 2 years, it was wonderful. I mean, I was constantly chasing the revenue. My other issue was processes. That kind of came a little bit later. But I got about 2.5, 3 years into that, and probably in the last year for myself, I was burned out, completely burned out. I would say in the last 6 or 7 months, was just feeling like I had trapped myself into this life, and it was not what I wanted it to be, and, other personal things and so on. And I was like, is this really what I want? But after this week, now I actually see a path forward. Up until recently, while I was still going to coaching and we're learning the different things every week, there was still this wall of it just wasn't sinking in. But after spending the week with my colleagues and people who've actually become friends over the last 3 years, it's like, okay, now I actually see what I'm going to do on Monday. I'm like, oh, it kind of was it may sound silly, that epiphany, oh, okay, I know what to do on Monday. to get me out of this. But yeah, it's quite scary and can be frustrating thinking like, you're the one who created this. You're the one who thought this would be a wonderful idea to go into business for yourself. Corporate America is starting to look really good again. This is not what I thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon to hear that, which again, I kind of made the joke of like, be careful what you wish for. And I think a lot of people get into business, want to work for themselves, find themselves struggling with a whole new set of problems related to client acquisition. How do I not just get clients, but ideally the right types of clients? And I think people hear 70% in year one, and they don't know what it's 70% of, but whatever that number was to be able to afford a mortgage, car payment, and basic necessities, it's not zero.
No.
But then 70% again, and that's a much harder feat to be able to actually achieve. And then you really get into, I think you said, chasing the revenue. And that's not chasing the next sale. That's chasing the revenue to keep the actual wheels on the bus and the clients happy and at least sane, right?
Absolute fulfillment, monthly fulfillment, because we have a monthly relationship with them. So now there's more clients to keep happy. I have more team now, more team to keep happy. And it just becomes very quickly becomes a cyclone or a tornado that you just get yourself sucked into. And yeah, it can be very, very scary. And, I don't want to use the O word, overwhelm.
It's real,
that's a swear word, but
it's a swear word here, but it's useful in the right context. And I think it's very apropos to use it when you've grown 70% year over year and, to your own admission. And I compliment you on this. I'm not a great communicator right now, right? And if we're struggling with the skill of communication, it's natural that we're not going to have a team that we feel is as productive as it needs to be.
Right.
That we're not maybe having the client relationships that we would like to have. And so I think when people hear epiphany, right? Oh, it's just because you're in France and you drank too much wine. But we spent a lot of time walking through like, what does clarity look and feel like for everyone in their unique situation, and just take the people who are listening to like how we were able to unpack a little bit about the specifics for you and what you feel the meaningful steps are going back to your business on Monday.
I think first, my situation is no way, shape, or form unique.
Very true.
We all have pretty similar circumstances. Some of us are at different places in our practices, but I think on a foundational level, we all have the same general issues. And so I think on the first day, for all of us to kind of map out all the things that we wanted to achieve, the reality was when you started to look through that list of things, I was like, well, yeah, okay, yes for me on that, yes for me on that. I may have given you 2 on the list, but I'm looking through the rest of them. I'm like, well, okay, yes, that, yeah, oh, yeah, I don't do that very well. Okay. And so, yeah, I mean, we just started to literally walk through all the pieces. What are all the issues we're running into? We all have team problems. We cannot find good quality team. How do we find good quality team? How do we retain good quality team? How do we look at structure? What does our current structure look like? What ideally will it look like in 2 or 5 years? Because you also have to look at that too. Mm-hmm. You have to look at, while I have myself and 4 right now, I could be myself and 8 potentially in a year. What does that look like? Who's the director of whom? Who am I adding? And so starting to actually flush it out on paper, for lack of a better word, I tell my clients this all the time, and we are, as accountants, we're the shoeless cobblers. We really are. I work in construction. Every single one of my clients has a house that needs to be renovated, right? It's just, we are our worst clients. And I literally took my little paper notebook and I started to draw my people and I put my positions and who I had and I started to put the names underneath and I was like, okay, in order to do this, I need this person here and this.
Yep.
And you absolutely have to, whether you scratch it out in a Word document, or I literally took my pencil and paper and mapped out who I needed and who I have. And, I walked in here thinking I'm going to blow up my team. I have to blow up my team and start all over again, and realizing, no, I've read enough and know enough over the years that I have some right people. They're just not in the right seats. Right. So how can I reformulate those seats to make who I already have work, but then know that I will, as what I'm doing grows, again, need to insert new people here and there. So I absolutely feel like I have a path forward. Like, I know what I'm going to do on Monday. I know what I'm going to do on Tuesday, because that can be the challenging part of all of this. Yeah. We all read the books. We all listen to the podcasts. We all know what we're supposed to do, right? In big fat quotes. But sometimes it's like, I need somebody to tell me. Yeah. On Monday, you're going to do that. Like, I jokingly use this sometimes with clients is, we've all heard the how do you tell me how you make a peanut butter sandwich? And it really, you're like, oh, well, I actually have to walk over to the cabinet and I have to raise my, and you're like, well, I'm just going to take the peanut butter and the bread. And you're like, no. You have to do a lot of things before you get there. And that's where I felt stuck was, I don't know what the steps are. Like, I know how to make the peanut butter sandwich, but what are the 27 steps I have to do? I generally know what I'm supposed to do, but I don't actually know what I'm supposed to do on Monday and then on Tuesday. And then, I have to do this thing every week on the Wednesday. I needed that. I needed that level of clarity, because if I did not have that, I was just going to go home and just start doing fulfillment again. And that's what happens. You don't know that path forward. Well, what do I know? I know how to do fulfillment. I know how to do a tax return. I'm just going to go do that tax return. I'm going to go clean up that QuickBooks file, because I don't know what that next thing for real in my business that I should be doing. It's, I need to hire a person. Okay, great. In quotes, I need to hire a person. What is that? What do I truly have to do those things? That's the part you are not, like, as an accountant, that you're not taught that in school. I wasn't taught that in undergrad. I wasn't taught that in grad school. So that's the aspect of this whole process you walk into blind. We're all amazing technicians in here. We can all do tax returns, forecasts, and the accounting and working clients' QuickBooks files. But when it comes to the meat and the potatoes of building a business, I know I didn't get any of that in school. So I won't lie. I'm like, there are times I'm flying blind just as badly as my clients are. I'm like, I don't need them to know that I have no idea what's going on.
To put the tinfoil hat on for a second here, I think that experience is largely by design, because the accounting industry likes doers and less directors, and they know that to support the Big Four and the regionals out there, they need a lot of bodies that can do certain things very well, and ideally other things not as well. And some of those people will pick it up baptism through fire. Other people will pay for alternative forms of education, whether it's, coaching, consulting, courses, or whatever, or just, watching some YouTube videos or podcasts. But, something that's jumping out to me, Lisa, is anyone who just listened to what you said would say, there's no way this woman is, quote unquote, a bad communicator. Fantastic storytelling, excellent detail recollection, just really descriptive, excellent use of your vocabulary. But what I find is interesting is that, there's a difference between the type of communication we're doing right now.
Correct.
Which is between peers and between friends. And then you get into the type of communication that you need to be able to have to create the end results of employee and owner of the business or manager, whatever the title is that we want to prescribe ourselves to. Plus, you add into that there's multiple different roles that you're managing. And one of the roles that you've managed successfully that's contributed to the growth is related to marketing, right? Having someone who's dedicated specifically for leads. And then all of a sudden we add one role, and then we add another role, and then one role subtracts out and another person comes in to fill it, and then we add another one. And all of a sudden we get to this place where we feel like we're sacrificing the owner's happiness in exchange for the happiness of the team and the clients. And that's a really tough place to be in. And the default position, which you spoke to earlier, oftentimes is like, I'm just going to burn this sucker down. I know I can build it back up. But there are great parts here. And when we take a second and go like, what are the great parts? Okay. Why would I burn this whole thing down? Even if I added it a little haphazardly in the beginning, that's part of growth. It's like, it's going to be messy. It's going to be imperfect. And it's not going to be perfect even when we do the org chart exercise or when we say, what are the responsibilities, or right people, right seat. Like, there's that actual hands-on, in the dirt implementation of like, I got to have these tough conversations. I got to get the team aligned on the same page.
Absolutely. Because if you don't, you're constantly, there's enough to juggle in the business. So you're juggling the client interactions, the completion of the client work. And if you're suddenly juggling keeping everybody happy, which I am a self-prescribed people pleaser, got to keep everybody happy.
I don't know an accountant who's not.
So yeah, you're a juggler in your own circus. And that's what it really truly feels like at points, because it does get out of control. And I may only be myself and 4 people. That's a lot if everyone is spinning in, there's no one rowing the boat in the same direction. I mean, I'm crossing my fingers that we're all at least in the same boat. And there are times I'm like, I don't even think we're in the same boat. I don't even know if we're sailing on the same river. And, and that becomes, that's a challenge in itself too. So it can be, and again, they don't, you're not taught this. You're not taught this. We're taught to be technicians. So there's a lot of the management, the interactions, the leadership, all of those things that you have to step away from the fulfillment aspect of things and now look at all the pieces of your business, because you have to attend to each one equally. I mean, the business is a garden. Each one of us is a different plant in that garden. And if we pay attention to one too much, you overwater it, you kill it just as much as if you don't give it water. And so I have always struggled with how much attention to give to the appropriate pieces of the puzzle. And we all do it as accountants. We always fall back to, I can always fall back on the fulfillment piece. I can always go back and do a tax return. It'll make me happy. It'll make me feel like I've accomplished something today because I actually finished a tax return.
We can always brute force the solution rather than actually say, well, what's the solution, when even if it's hard to do, whether it's training, SOPs, learning the tool, having the hard conversation with the person who's not being as productive as we know that they could be. There's a lot of things that are hard to do, but that's why they're necessary to do, is because of the difficulty associated with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point, and I think what I imagine a lot of people are thinking, or maybe shouting in their cars, is just like, Lisa, you just need to sign up for this workflow software tool. And you had a great point on this earlier, which is, there's the shiny 1 hour presentation that you go through, and it doesn't matter what the tool is. They all, when you're sitting in those webinars, they're the magical cure to all your overwhelm, and you just click one button and boom, it's magic. But you had a wonderful anecdotal experience that I'd like you to just briefly reshare, where even if you pay for the fancy onboarding, which you've done.
I did. I paid for the fancy onboarding, which was wonderful. But I go back to, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so because I didn't know to ask certain questions. So when I ended up with kind of the final tool, because they were kind enough to put all the bells and the whistles in the back end for you, which I needed someone to do. I didn't have the capacity to do that work. And I also knew if someone was doing it for me, then on the other side, it's, for lack of a better word, done. And it wasn't me being the person who's driving the implementation. So I needed that aspect of things. But it took me months, and then finally realizing that, when they said to you, well, if you just want to reassign the work to the next person, you just go in there and click it and change, it's not, oh, Sue's out sick. Oh, Sue just had a baby. She's out for 3 months. Okay, I'm going to assign the work to Bob. And it wasn't. Sue's name is in the work in 4 different places.
Yep.
And in the back of this and underneath that. And so now I'm the one who's in there trying to unassign Sue's name to all the different work she was doing to give it to Bob. And I can't understand. I assigned it to Bob, and I'm thinking, how come he's not working on this work?
What's wrong with you,
What's
Bob?
wrong with you? You're not doing the work I assigned you when, the work I assigned him wasn't ending up in his work list in this product that was supposed to be the savior of all saviors.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is supposed to help us.
Right.
And there are points where you look at it and you think, gosh, should I go back to the Excel spreadsheet that literally has a checkbox that says that they're
All
done with
roads lead
April?
back to Excel.
Oh, done with April, done with May. Like, what? This is not, so believe me, I am the queen of shiny software. If you tell me it's going to save me, then I'm paying for it probably right now. So it isn't, there's always something, but you're trading something too. I'm trading,
Yep.
I'm trading my time for learning this product so that I know how it operates appropriately so I can get the information, because it is a good tool. It will help us. But again, it's, in that 60 seconds, 60 minutes, it was this all magical, mystical thing. And then 2 weeks in, my team are going to be using it perfectly. And we're going to be able to go in and see exactly where everybody is. And I still go in there like almost 3 years later and think, yeah, this doesn't actually tell me where the work is. I'm going to have to ask. So where the work is. But those are all things that you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what good questions that, did you ask the right questions? I didn't know what the right questions were.
Yeah, and I think it's the perfect example of, like, this is not unique to you. There's no perfect tool that's going to run exactly the way that they promise you it will run.
No.
And one of the more tactical things that I've suggested in many different respects is less generalist and more specialist. And obviously when you're growing and you're carving out revenue for yourself and you're building a team and you're learning leadership skills and you're learning how the software works and you're paying for the help that you're supposed to get it to, the place where you feel like it's just perfect, and you just realize that, that the actual practical hands-on experience inside of the software that you need to use it for is not going to come from that fancy onboarding. It's going to come from either you as the owner becoming a power user, getting the experience, or you're going to empower a team member to be the power user to go through and learn and master it for you. And so that you can basically just say, like, hey, this is what we need it to do. I can't see what I need to see. That I feel like I should.
Sure.
Help me understand why that's not the case. And so rather than getting routed through, let's just be real, mediocre support, you actually are building your own internal expertise inside of the business related to the tools that you need to use. And that's been huge for us, because I remember feeling like I had to know everything about my own workflow tool.
Oh, awful. Yeah.
And
manage the team and manage the clients and the expectations from everybody and their mother's cousin's uncle.
Yeah, and like I think that's the point where you really start to feel the true meaning of overwhelm. Is you feel like you are the one that's responsible for all of these super important parts, but the moment you go, actually, you know what? I've got a great A player here. They may not be great at all the things that I've been cobbling them together to do,
Sure.
but they're certainly really good at A, B, C, and D, not E, F, and G. And, you know, E, F, and G is actually probably better over here, and because this person's really good at those things. But if I can just get them to be way better at being the power user of my workflow software, which is really, again, like the heart and soul of my organization, how much more productive are we going to be?
Absolutely. If you have the ability to truly service clients the way that you want to, so that you're not getting hinked up on the minutia stuff, because that's also the stuff slows you down, makes the client or the job not profitable. On the other side of it, that's the stuff the client in some cases never sees. Or in our case, doesn't see their monthly pack.
Yeah.
Right. And so now, because what we do is, and for lack of, it's kind of kludgy. They don't have anything to hold on to.
Nope. It's all invisible.
It is. It's all invisible. So because we're not properly working through the workflow every month, the client's not getting the quote unquote deliverable. We're finishing things, but they're not getting that final deliverable packet, right? Now, 99% of them are never going to look at it or open the email, but what they received it, like we sent it to them.
They know they're paying for something.
Correct. And when you don't show them what they're paying for, those are the ones that, you know, ultimately are going to self-select themselves out. And so that's where the workflow tool becomes so crucial to ensure it's not sometimes they get it, or sometimes this one gets it, or this one gets it all the time, this one never gets anything. Every single one of them needs to get the same experience every time, because it also leads back to, if you are mining some of those individuals for referrals, you want the experience of the person they referred to you to be the same experience that they have had, because you don't want that referral to go back to their buddy, especially in what I do in construction. And they bump into a buddy on a site and you're like, you told me this accountant was awesome. They're terrible. We haven't seen anything come over from them. I haven't talked to, I haven't talked to anybody, whatever. It has to be a consistent experience. The experience is our brand.
Yep.
That's the thing that differentiates us. And that's always the thing we talk about. We need to be able to differentiate ourselves. I do the same thing with my construction clients. Answer the phone. Call that customer back. Like that's part of your brand. And it may sound silly, and it's the same thing for us. We're a service. Call the client back or email the client back, or they need to get their pack every month so that they see that there's work going on. That's part of the brand, not just the stuff we put in their QuickBooks file or that tax return I gave them. It's all of that. It's the experience that we give to them. And yeah, we want 1,000 raving fans. We want those to be our clients.
Yep. It's not accidental, right? It's intentional. And the thing that's, again, intentional is you have to assign the responsibility to someone who is not you to be able to recreate the experience as if it was you.
Correct.
And that's where, again, I think the rubber really meets the road for a lot of people who experience growing pains is, okay, I've done some assignments, I bought the tools, and I still feel like I got to come in and save the day. And that, again, that's real and in a very real sense that has to happen, but not forever. Because when you're jumping in, that's just, you've got to, again, have the presence of mind, like, why did I need to jump in? Like, what caused me to need to jump in? Is it a gap in the process? Is it a gap in the training? Is it maybe just we sold someone we shouldn't have? And that's, again, these are all just like things that when we sit down and we walk through things with clients, I promise you these questions will be the same, right? Like, where is the hiccup in creating the 1,000 raving fans? Because maybe they just don't like the sound of your music. They're never going to be a raving fan. Maybe they had a hard time buying a ticket.
Yeah.
maybe when they showed up to the show, the usher hocked a loogie in front of them. Like these are all real things. And if we take the time to actually walk through and be like, what's the perfect customer journey and who's responsible for ensuring that this experience happens? Are they the right person for it? Cool. Have they been trained up? Cool. Do we have visibility on what they're doing and how they're doing it? No? We should probably dial in and see what that looks like. But Lisa, I know that this conversation could and should be 3 hours. Like, I know it. I know that. But unfortunately,
I could talk all afternoon. You know that.
Unfortunately, I have to be extremely respectful if this is your final night in France. And so I have to let you go. Okay. But before we go, I always like to ask one question.
Sure.
Favorite business quote? Where'd you learn it? What's it mean to you? And you can take a second and think about it, because I really want you to be like, this is the one that I lean on, or this is, even if it's newer, if it's older, just take a second.
That's a good question.
Maybe think contextually.
Yeah,
If you run into a problem, or if you had something, like, is there something you repeat to yourself, or is there like a mantra you like, or is there a... Don't use the one we wrote on the board about data, please, because I don't want that one sneaking out into the market.
No, and it's not a business quote. It's not a business quote, but I have to go back to it. It's something that my mother says. I'm sorry.
Go for it. That's great.
And I have to go back to it every once in a while, because I am, again, the queen of the people pleasers. But her thing is, the more you bend, the more your behind shows. And I get to a point where I've just bent myself so elaborately in my business for everyone. Believe me, it's a lot more graphic. I held my tongue. But you have to go back to that. You have to think about that. While we want to make our clients happy, in some cases, it's never going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect happiness. We're never going to make our team perfectly happy. And then the more you bend over, again, it's just all you're doing is bending over. So you have to find that happy medium of client happiness, team happiness, your own happiness. Because many of us in this room this week will absolutely sacrifice our own personal happiness to make everybody else happy. And, that's ultimately at the detriment of your business in most cases. Because we'll be the ones if you'd talked to me 4 months ago, I was burning it down. I was going to get rid of everybody, and I was just going to go back and work solo. So... not a proper business quote, not a Tony Robbins quote.
No.
Or
If anything, I like the hard fought ones, or the ones that come from, if I have to hear another Tony Robbins quote for the millionth time, yeah, it's great the first time you hear it, but I like ones that are, new spins on what are, again, just like historical truths. And I think that's just a fun way to think about. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Or maybe again, like, if you just don't have standards, then you're going to just basically, like, someone will determine what your standards are. Or if you don't have a path for your life, someone will pick a path for you. And I think yours is more about, like, risk and exposure. And a lot of accountants view their business and their lives through a risk lens. And I think that's a very, very astute way to view your business, because there are risks that you have to mitigate. And when you start just accepting what other people would like your life to be, or how your business should run, as opposed to what your dream firm is, that's leadership. That's taking accountability and responsibility, but also, like, I'm going to take a lot of responsibility, but I can't take responsibility for your happiness.
Absolutely. I want it to be my dream firm, not the client's version of the dream firm or the team member's version of the dream firm, because all their dreams are going to be very, very different. And we have absolutely no ability to make everybody happy. So I need to figure out exactly what that happy is for myself personally, what it is for the practice, and then I need to build around that. And that's where, yes, if a client falls off because you don't jive with the vision,
You don't bend.
yeah, exactly, then,
Okay.
or same thing with a team member, like that's,
And again, I just like the taking it to its logical end, which is just being like, okay, you're not a client. Like,
yeah. And I will say
Okay.
since I've been working with you, I'm much more open to and able to say like, yeah, you're not a client.
I have the capacity for a better client now.
I've got the tools in place that I know I can backfill that client.
Yep.
4 or 5 years ago, I would have been scared that I oh God, I don't want so-and-so to go. Oh, I'll lose that revenue.
Yep.
I have no way to backfill. And
Terrible place to be.
it is. It's the ultimate of the, that fear mentality.
Scarcity, right?
Absolutely.
Like, oh no, how am I going to replace this? And the inverse of that is you now have the authority to truly say like, no, I'm not going to bend over. I'm not going to bend the rules just to keep you here. I don't need to.
Yeah, everybody else follows the rules. You don't.
Yeah.
And when you don't follow the rules, now we have to change our whole process. And then that's where things get missed too, is when we go out of process and, oh, well, John does it this way and, they want it that way. Well, that's great. Every, the 17 other clients we have do it the way that it should. Oh, we just missed X, Y, or Z because we went out of our process to do it the way that John wanted it. And we just missed it. And, we're in the poo anyways.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're the bad guys because now they've called me and they're angry because X, Y, Z doesn't happen. Like, well, you've been basically going outside of our process all along.
Yep.
And what? Because we weren't able to catch it because we were going outside of our process, then we're the bad guys.
Yep.
So yeah, there's no winning. There's no winning there. So at that point, you have to create, and I've learned this and it's taken a while and I'm not great with everyone on it. There have to be rules of engagement.
Yep.
These are the rules to work with us. Again, not to be inflexible, but this is what we do. This is how I don't want to say guarantee, but I can guarantee that these 5 things are getting done every month. If you go outside of that, I can't guarantee that. I'm going to forget. If I'm going to forget, then guarantee the team's going to forget.
It ends up creating, again, complexity and of all
Too many balls in the air.
Yeah. It's another famous business quote, right? Simple scales, fancy fails. And the fancier version of every business is letting people dictate to you how to run your business. And what ends up happening is you create a 1,000 different SKUs to get to an end result that is ambiguous and not as well defined. And you have to now manage all these different ways of trying to do things. And really, when you're an advisor, when you accept the associated responsibility of leadership, part of that is saying like, actually, I know the best way. Maybe there is some variation that I'm happy to entertain, but you got to trust me to know that like, this is more than likely the best way. This is my field of expertise. So why don't we do it my way? Like, again, you came here to buy expertise. So like, if you knew a better way, you can go do your way. If you want to do it my way, that's what you're buying access to. So let's do it this way.
Well, and I think we could probably do 4 hours on
Yeah.
that. But we also have a problem in our profession, and we've discussed this before, about you would never call up your attorney and tell your attorney how to do things.
No, you wouldn't. Or your doctor, right? Like,
Gosh, no.
never.
No.
But for
So-
some reason in accounting, it's like,
Happens
actually,
all the time, so-
I think this is a write-off.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. So I'm going to, these are the rules of engagement. You go to the doctor's office, you walk in, you fill out the paperwork. You don't get in the door unless you fill it out. Like the gatekeeper won't let you in the door.
Nope.
So we just need to create that same level. And while I have no interest in becoming a monstrosity of a business, no one, Jeff Bezos didn't let people tell him how to run Amazon. Bill Gates didn't allow people to tell him how he was going to run Microsoft. I don't call up Microsoft and say, I would like this, and this way instead. And they're like, oh, absolutely. Let me do that for you right now. No. And so we just have to retrain our clients that these, again, are the rules of engaging with us. If that is not the right fit for you, then absolutely I'm not the first accountant on the planet. I won't be the last one. I am clearly not the only one who specializes in construction. So if you would like, at that point, then here is a list of other people that you can call. And the headache of going, the bending over is just not worth. Yeah.
Not worth the risk.
It's not worth the migraine on the other side.
No, it's not worth whatever comes out on the other end, right?
No, absolutely.
So, Lisa, this has been absolutely fantastic from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being a dream client. Thank you for coming out.
I enjoy it.
Enjoying France.
I've got a brand new house with a brand new kitchen and brand new bathrooms in it because of the dream firms. That's the truth. So
I promise I didn't pay her to say that.
That is 150,000% the truth.
That's incredible. You deserve every bit of the success that you have. You're a fantastic person. And again, in case your clients, family, friends, or team members don't say it, thank you for doing a lot of the things that other people simply won't do. I know it's hard.
Thank you.
We're going to close it out the way that we know how. Okay. So as always, if you like this, please like, subscribe, comment, whatever just shows that you like some more of Lisa's knowledge. And as always, remember that only you can create your dream firm, but we are here to help you every single step of the way. Have a fantastic rest of your workday, and maybe we'll see you in France in the not so distant future.